All right, today we're diving into a project that's, well, it's pretty hard to ignore, the Pi Network. You've probably seen it around. It's got this huge following. We're talking tens of millions of users. And it's all built on this one big promise, to finally make crypto something anyone can use. But you gotta ask, is it really the real deal? Or is it just too good to be true? And that huge promise really boils down to one simple but kind of revolutionary question. See, for years, if you wanted to get into crypto mining, you needed these crazy powerful, super expensive computers, right? Well, Pi Network comes along and says, nope, all you need is the phone you're probably holding right now. So how on earth does that actually work? And is there any real tech behind all the buzz? Let's dig in and find out. Okay, so first things first, let's get right to the heart of it. What is the big idea behind the Pi Network? What are they trying to do that's so different from all the other crypto projects out there?
So, at its core, Pi Network is a digital currency project that kicked off way back in March 2019. But the really important part isn't just what it is, but who started it and why. It was launched by a group of Stanford grads, and they had this one single-minded goal: to make crypto easy enough for absolutely everyone to use, not just for the tech wizards and coding geniuses.
And that, right there, is the absolute game changer. Think about Bitcoin for a second. It needs massive amounts of electricity and crazy powerful hardware. Pi flips that whole script. Their model is all about accessibility. The entry ticket isn't a fat wallet or a computer science degree. It's just having a smartphone. That's it.
Okay, so you're tapping a button and collecting these Pi coins, but what's the end game? What are they even for? Well, the big vision is to create a whole digital economy from the ground up. The idea is that you'll be able to use Pi coins to pay your friends, to buy things inside apps built on the Pi network, and, down the line, to buy real-world stuff from businesses that are part of the ecosystem. Now, that all sounds pretty good in theory, but it brings us right back to that big, skeptical question. How in the world can you mine crypto on your phone without it, melting in your hand or draining your battery in 5 minutes? So let's actually break down how they claim this works. The process is surprisingly simple. All you have to do is open the app once every 24 hours and tap a button. That's it. You're basically just proving you're a real human who's still engaged. So it's not mining in the way we think of with Bitcoin, with all that heavy lifting. It's really more of a way to distribute the coins fairly. And since it uses almost no energy, it can scale to millions and millions of people without a problem. And the whole ecosystem is really built on community participation, with 4 main roles you can take on. Pretty much everyone starts as a pioneer. That's just you tapping the button every day. But as you get more involved, you can become a contributor by building out your trust network. Or you can be an ambassador and bring new people in. And for the really dedicated folks, you can even run a node on your desktop computer to help keep the whole network secure. Okay, pay attention, because this idea of security circles is really the secret sauce here. The best way to think about it is like a digital neighborhood watch. You, as a user, basically vouch for a handful of people you know and trust. And your little circle connects with their little circles, and so on until you have this giant global web of trust. This social network is what actually secures everything and keeps fake accounts out, all without needing to burn a country's worth of electricity. Now, it's really important to remember that this project didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It's been a long journey, and understanding that timeline is super helpful for figuring out where Pi is today and, more importantly, where it's trying to go. So it kicks off in 2019, and the growth was just insane. People from all over the world started signing up. Then, from about 2022 to 2024, the project moved into what's called a testnet phase. You can think of this as a closed-off sandbox, a place to test the technology and let developers start building apps. But the real finish line, the moment everyone is waiting for, is that projected open mainnet launch in 2025. That's when Pi is supposed to hit the open market and become publicly tradable. Okay, so when you've got a project this ambitious, you're naturally going to get some big questions and, frankly, a lot of skepticism. So let's try to be fair here and look at both sides of the coin, the big promises versus the big pitfalls. So on one hand, you've got this incredible promise, a giant, easy-to-use payment system with its own apps and its own economy. That's the dream. But on the other hand, the critics have some really valid points. The biggest one, it's taking a long time. We're years in, and it's still not on the open market. Then there are worries about the massive number of coins. Could that make them worthless? And the biggest question of all, will people actually use this for real-world stuff? And look, whatever you think about the project, you cannot deny its single greatest asset, the sheer size of its community. We are talking about tens of millions of people all over the globe who've signed up. And here's a key detail. To actually get their coins when the main network goes live, users have to pass what's called a Know Your Customer, or KYC check. This basically verifies that they're a real, unique person, which adds a serious layer of legitimacy.
Okay, so this leads us right into the whole money side of things, specifically those concerns about inflation. When we look at the numbers, the circulating supply is projected to be about 8.3 billion coins. But the maximum total supply is a whopping 100 billion. And, basic economics 101 tells you that when there's a huge supply of something, it can be pretty tough for each individual unit to be worth a lot.
And now for the number I'm sure you've been waiting for, the price. The estimated price as of January 2026 is sitting around 17 cents. But, and I cannot stress this enough, this is a huge but. That number is purely speculative right now. It's not a real market price. The true value of Pi will only be determined when and if it launches on the open mainnet and people can actually buy and sell it freely on exchanges. So, when you put all of this together, where do we land? What's the final hurdle? What is the one ultimate test that will decide if Pi Network becomes a massive success or just fades away? Well, for Pi to really make it, it basically has to nail 4 key things. First, the ecosystem needs real utility. That means apps and services that people genuinely find useful. Second, merchants have to start accepting Pi as payment, real businesses. Third, they've got to figure out how to navigate the messy world of global financial regulations. And finally, they have to prove that their whole economic model can actually last in the long run. When you boil it all down, it really comes back to this one idea. Pi Network is a massive, incredibly ambitious experiment. It has a crystal clear goal to take cryptocurrency out of the hands of the tech elite and put it into the hands of, everyone else. And so that leaves us with the final multi-billion-dollar question. There's no doubt that Pi Network has built one of the biggest communities crypto has ever seen. The numbers are staggering. But can they actually convert that huge crowd of people into a real, functioning, and valuable digital economy? The answer to that question, that's what will ultimately define its legacy.